This is the D&D official VTT. If you look at this without any prior knowledge of the TTRPG or gaming industry on the whole, it looks pretty cool. You can build up maps, throw digital minis on there, move them around, cast spells, roll dice, and get flashy animations showing it all happen. But the truth of the matter is that Wizards of the Coast, the owners of Dungeons & Dragons, are hoping to change the way we play D&D forever. And I think they will, but maybe not for the better. So I want to talk about this as kind of a pros and cons list. We can talk about different parts of the VTT and then throw keywords either side. And then at the end, I can kind of decide how I feel overall about this. But you can let me know in the comments right now what you think of this future VTT. Let me know if you're optimistic about it or the opposite. So first off, watching a Dungeon Craft video where Professor Dungeon Master talks about the time that he actually got to play the VTT and speak to its creators, I found out that Wizards of the Coast know that they won't ever be able to replicate the energy of playing in person, but they do want to mimic it as much as possible with flashy spell effects and having the action move really fast, having the dice calculate everything for you and making it easier to move your pieces and take your go. They want a quick pace, which I think is great for people who play online. For me, this is going to be much more engaging than sitting in a Discord call and looking at a 2D map. It also opens up room for it to be used instead of physical terrain, especially if you have a group like I do who mostly always use laptops at the table, so it's already there, good to go. So that's a pro, obviously, online play. Oh, and speaking of 2D maps, this should not be confused with D&D Beyond's new maps feature. This is a separate thing that kind of does get a little confusing. You can right now head to D&D Beyond and play a D&D game using their 2D maps, which allow you to place tokens and move them around. And they seem to be putting a lot of work into it. But once this 3D VTT comes out, I do wonder if anyone's going to use the 2D version anymore. Surely the 3D one should be its superior, but I think there's going to be division between the two. I do think some players just like using the 2D maps, and that's fine, but I also think there's going to be a monetary gap between the two. I don't think this 3D VTT is going to be expensive, but to get all the features and use it to its full potential, I do think it's going to cost you. And we'll get into that in a bit. But while I do think having 2D maps and this 3D VTT both on D&D Beyond is a lot, especially since both are referred to as the VTT or D&D Digital, I do think having more options on how to play D&D is a good thing. So that's more options in the pro category. It does get me thinking though, what is this VTT going to do to the TTRPG space in general? I think for the average Joe who plays a home game in person, your life won't change too much. Some tables may adopt using the VTT at their table occasionally for like particular battles, but honestly, everyone around the table staring at their screens just won't hit the same as physical terrain or theatre of the mind. I do think there's a really big use case for games where there's like a built-in screen in the table, you know, that people use instead of battle mats, but unless we get some really cool touchscreen functionality going on, where you can just like drag and drop your minis with your finger on the screen, I'm not sure that's going to take off that fast. However, for games played online, I think this is going to become a very normal way of playing. I also think it's going to bring a lot of new players from the video game space. The Baldur's Gate 3 crowd, for example, or even the Minecraft crowd. I think building up maps and terrain in this is going to be fun for those who enjoy creating things digitally. And for new, younger players who haven't really played D&D before, I think this may become the default because it's much cheaper than buying terrain like this. Much cheaper. So let's say cheaper than terrain on here. But if you did want to utilize this in your home games, the big con here is that you need more equipment. While the VTT should be playable across mobile, console, and PC, most probably everyone at the table will want to be using a relatively good laptop to get the best experience. So the bar of entry there is certainly a lot higher. It's also just more things to keep track of, and it can be hard to rely on something like this, since a few times I've had D&D Beyond servers go down on me, or my own internet go down, and I've been unable to access character sheets. So just needing and relying on technology in general is not a great thing. So I'm going to throw technology and equipment on here to cover both the need for it and relying on it. You also need a D&D Beyond account to play, which while some could see it as a good thing, that you have character creation tools, character sheets, the books, and the VTT all connected in one place, it does mean that it's locking you into using only their products, which is never a good thing. So closed ecosystem can go on the con side of things too. Now here's the thing, from everything I've seen and heard, it looks good and it plays well. It is fun to engage with and it does allow you to take moves fast. It does what it says on the tin. Now I may change my opinion on that on its release, but from what I've seen, I have no problem throwing graphics and effectiveness on the pros column because it looks good and it works. And you may be looking at this thinking, this list looks like it's a lot of pros. Phil, are Wizards of the Coast paying you? No, they're not. And you also may be thinking, shouldn't you be putting the word OGL or Pinkertons in the con side? Well, this isn't that kind of video. But there is drama here. There's one big con to rule them all: microtransactions. Wizards of the Coast want this to be very profitable for them. Could you stop, miss, please? Wizards of the Coast want this to be very profitable for them, and seem to be copying free-to-play models in video games, where they get you in for free with flashy visuals and fun gameplay, then just start offering you these tiny transactions, little things that you don't need, but oh, wouldn't it be fun to have? Oh, and as far as we know, this VTT won't even be free to play. It will be part of a D&D Beyond subscription model. At least that's what I've kind of heard through the grapevine. So you're going to be paying monthly, I presume. And I'm sorry if I'm wrong on that. But you're also probably going to be getting these tiny microtransaction purchases thrown in your face all the time. And the pro here is that you don't need this stuff, so don't buy it. But the con is that there's a reason this monetization model is so popular in video games. It works. It psychologically chips away at you till it normalizes these small purchases. It's always there, advertising new and shiny digital things, and most people eventually buy something. I mean, think about it. The whole point of them having these microtransactions is to make them money. They're going to do everything in their power to sell it to you. And the VTT is not even out yet, and they're already selling one. As seen here in the pre-order options for the new core rulebooks on D&D Beyond, if you pre-order them now, you get a 50th anniversary Gold Dragon Mini, releasing with the closed beta of the upcoming 3D virtual tabletop. And this is all we know about the release date, by the way, that it's upcoming. Looking back over old articles online, it seems like the original estimated release date was late 2023, which obviously got pushed back, and now we're kind of expecting it to coincide with these core rulebooks being released. But if this beta is anything like the D&D Beyond Encounters beta, we could be looking at full release being years away, because that's my biggest pet peeve about D&D Beyond. Take the Encounters out of beta. It's been like 5 years. But my final thought on this is a pro, and that is simply that if they pull it off, and it is a smooth running D&D 3D VTT, and looks good and can be used on multiple devices, phones, laptops, and consoles, then there's kind of nothing else like this on the market, as far as I know. Please let me know if you have any recommendations for 3D VTTs for TTRPGs that work well. But I'm going to presume with the time, money, and intent behind this will be the best VTT on the market. So I'm just gonna put simply no competition on here, which is unfortunate, but I think true. Oh, and actually here's one more pro and a con, depending on whether you play mostly D&D or a bunch of other TTRPGs. This VTT is created specifically for Dungeons & Dragons. Other competing VTTs that can be used for D&D are also made to be used with a whole bunch of other TTRPGs. So if you wanted a VTT that you could use for, say, Daggerheart in the future, as well as D&D, this won't work. However, I do think this is actually a pro, because it means it can hyper-focus on D&D and make this the best damn D&D VTT on the market. And since I primarily play D&D right now, having a D&D only VTT that is incredibly polished is a pro for me. But I totally see how that can become a con in the future. So with that in mind, I do appear to have a lot more pros than cons on here. And we all know I'm kind of optimistic, even when it shoots me in my own foot. But honestly, this microtransaction's a big guy. And the fact that they are pushing it already, with no release date yet, is a lot. The 50th anniversary Gold Dragon. Pre-order the books now, or miss out on this once-in-a-lifetime digital mini. That's very scary to me. It's using FOMO, microtransactions, and it's just very manipulative. So I would love to know how expensive this VTT will end up being for the average consumer. And I want to know, will it be a subscription model? Will they be selling most minis? And then will they maybe have unpainted and painted ones you can buy? There's a lot of room for scumbaggery here. Like, will they be doing Halloween events and Christmas events where you can buy new in-game decorations and terrain? Unfortunately, only time will tell. How much time? We don't know yet. But we did get an interesting tidbit from a Screen Rant article about the new Black Dragon, since they also talk about the pre-order bonuses in here. And they use this wording. This includes the Dragons of D&D Digital Art Book, which will be emailed when the player's handbook is released. D&D Beyond Golden Dice Set, which will be added to one's D&D Beyond library once the player's handbook is released, and Sigil, Gold Dragon Mini, which will be available when Sigil enters closed beta later this year. This makes some people in the community think that the new VTT's name will be Sigil. And in D&D lore, it is officially pronounced Sigil, by the way, not Sigil, even though I really desperately want it to be Sigil. It's an iconic major city in Planescape. But yeah, I think at least internally, Wizards of the Coast are referring to the VTT as Sigil. Probably a code name for the project though. We've done this song and dance before where everyone thinks they know exactly what something is named and we all start naming it that, and then it's not called that. Most notably recently with 1D&D, which was the internal name for the 2024 core rule updates, but is not the official name. But yeah, I don't know. Will you guys be using this VTT? Are you excited for it? Let me know, and thanks for watching.